Welcome to the deep dive. We're cutting through the noise today, getting right to the heart of something that really touches every single connection we have.
Hmm,
Clarity.
absolutely. It's crucial whether we're talking romantic partners, friendships, family, even colleagues at work.
Right, and when it's missing, that absence of clarity, it can feel like you're just wading through, I don't know, emotional mud. It obscures what's really going on.
Exactly. That lack of clear understanding, it creates so much unnecessary friction. It's that nagging feeling of uncertainty, isn't it?
Yeah, the constant mental gymnastics trying to figure out what someone really means or feels.
Right. Clarity, though, when you have it, it feels like solid ground. It reduces all that guesswork, that cognitive load, and it frees you up.
Frees you up to actually connect more authentically.
Precisely.
So, okay, our goal in this deep dive is to really dig into what clarity actually means in our relationships.
And maybe explore why it can be surprisingly difficult to achieve sometimes.
Yes. And most importantly, figure out some, concrete ways we can actually cultivate it for stronger, healthier connections.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's unpack this. When we talk about clarity, it's got to be more than just like blurting out whatever's on your mind, right? What's the deeper definition we're working with?
Yeah, it definitely goes beyond just simple verbal expression. Clarity, uh, at its core, it's really about fostering mutual understanding
Yeah.
and doing that with intention.
Mutual understanding.
With intention, okay?
It's about alignment. Making sure your inner thoughts and feelings line up with your outward words, and importantly, your actions.
The actions piece, that's key.
It is. And communicating all that in a way the other person can genuinely grasp your perspective. Think of it like transparency, but guided by connection.
You know, that really brings to mind those super frustrating situations where someone's words and actions are just totally out of sync.
Oh,
Like
definitely.
they say they value the relationship, but then their behavior just leaves you feeling confused, maybe unimportant.
The classic hot and cold. Exactly. Or, someone's physically there, but they're clearly checked out, just scrolling on their phone instead of actually being with you.
Mm. That inconsistency, that's the perfect example of that emotional static you mentioned earlier. It really messes with the signal.
It absolutely does.
And those kinds of discrepancies, they just erode trust. They create this breeding ground for anxiety and second guessing.
Whereas, conversely, when you actually experience clarity in a relationship, wow, there's such a profound sense of security, isn't there?
Absolutely. You know where you stand. You know what to expect, generally. And that predictability, when it's healthy, it allows for so much deeper intimacy.
And trust to flourish.
Right.
Okay, so we've all felt that relief of clarity and equally the frustration when it's missing. If it's so obviously beneficial, why do we so often end up in those murky waters?
Yeah. Why is it so hard sometimes?
What are the core reasons we avoid being clear, even when deep down we know it would probably be better in the long run?
Well, one really significant factor is just the vulnerability involved. Being truly clear is inherently vulnerable.
How so?
Well, to clearly articulate your needs, your desires, your boundaries, it means putting yourself out there. You're in a position where, you could potentially be rejected or have those needs ignored or unmet.
Ah, okay. That can trigger some pretty deep-seated fears.
Absolutely.
It's that fear of hearing something you don't want to hear, isn't it? Like, if you ask a direct question, where do we stand? You might get an answer that's actually painful.
hmm It can almost feel safer sometimes to just stay in that ambiguous space.
The known uncertainty versus the potentially painful certainty.
Precisely. And beyond that immediate fear, there can be other motivations too, maybe less obvious ones.
Like what?
Well, sometimes a lack of clarity can serve as a kind of self-protection.
Mm.
It's a way to avoid difficult conversations, maybe potential conflict.
Okay, conflict avoidance. Makes sense.
For other people, it might be about keeping their options open, avoiding firm commitments.
Ah, the non-committal clarifier.
Or sometimes it genuinely reflects their own internal uncertainty. They might not actually know how they feel or what they want yet.
So avoiding clarity can seem like a short-term win, a way to dodge immediate discomfort or awkwardness.
Yeah, a tactical advantage maybe for the ego in the moment.
But it sounds like this comes at a pretty significant long-term emotional cost.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
While that ambiguity might offer some temporary relief, it inevitably leads to this buildup. Unresolved issues, misunderstandings that just fester.
And it's exhausting.
It's like a constant drain on your emotional energy, trying to interpret, trying to second guess everything.
Okay, so we're clear on why clarity is so important and some of the, let's say, tricky reasons we might dodge it. Now for the really crucial part.
Yeah.
How do we actively cultivate more clarity?
The practical steps.
Yeah. What can we actually do to move towards more open, honest communication in our relationships?
Okay, well, I think the journey towards clearer communication really has to start with a strong foundation of self-awareness.
Knowing yourself first?
Exactly. You really need to have a solid handle on your own emotional landscape. What are your needs, your desires? What are your triggers, your boundaries? You need that internal clarity first.
Before you can communicate it effectively to someone else.
Right. And things like journaling or just regular self-reflection, even talking things through out loud, maybe with a trusted friend, can be incredibly valuable for building that.
That makes perfect sense. You can't really articulate what you need if you haven't taken the time to figure it out yourself.
Okay, so once we have that better internal sense, how do we translate that into our interactions?
I'd say early and honest communication is just paramount. Don't wait.
Don't let things fester.
Exactly. Don't wait until small frustrations snowball into major resentments. Try to reframe those potentially difficult conversations.
Reframe them how?
Not as confrontations necessarily, but more as opportunities. Opportunities for open dialogue, for mutual understanding right from the beginning.
Okay, so being proactive,
Mm,
addressing things early can prevent a lot of confusion and hurt later on.
a significant amount, yeah. I think a lot of people hesitate, though, because they equate being direct with being, I don't know, negative
Yeah.
or harsh.
Hmm. That's a common misconception.
But you're suggesting it's more about being upfront and honest, but in a constructive way and timely.
Exactly. Constructive and timely. And another really powerful tool for fostering clarity is simply asking clarifying questions.
Instead of assuming?
Yes. Instead of jumping to conclusions or making assumptions about what someone means or intends, actively seek to understand their perspective.
Can you give an example?
Sure, something as simple as, hey, can you help me understand what you meant by that? Or could you tell me a bit more about where you're coming from on this?
Okay. That seems so straightforward. But yeah, we often overlook it, don't we? We let our own interpretations run wild.
We really do. And asking for more information can bridge so many potential gaps.
What about boundaries? How do they fit into creating clarity?
Oh, boundaries are fundamental. Setting them and clearly communicating them is a core aspect of clarity. Think of boundaries not so much as walls to keep people out,
Right.
but more like clearly marked pathways. They define what's acceptable and what's not acceptable within that specific relationship.
So they provide a framework.
Exactly. A framework for respectful interaction, for understanding each other's limits and needs.
And it's probably not just about stating them once and, job done.
Definitely not. It's an ongoing process. Communication, reinforcement, clarity is a continuous dialogue.
Okay, continuous dialogue. I like that.
And a really crucial step in that dialogue, something we often miss, is actively checking for mutual understanding after you've communicated something important.
Ah, okay. Why is that so vital?
Because our individual interpretations can vary so widely
Mm.
based on our past experiences, our perspectives. What seems clear to me might land completely differently for you.
Right. We filter everything.
We do.
Yeah.
So taking just a moment to confirm you're both on the same page can head off so many future misunderstandings.
Like say,
Something simple, like, okay, so just to make sure I've understood correctly, you're saying X, Y, Z, or how does that land for you? It can make a huge difference.
that makes so much sense. We operate under this assumption that if we think we said it clearly, the other person must have received it exactly as intended.
Yeah, it's a common trap.
That act of confirming shared understanding, it feels like a vital step we often skip. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk rewards.
The good stuff.
Yes. What are the tangible, positive outcomes we can expect when we really lean in and embrace clarity in our relationships?
Well, the benefits are pretty profound, actually. Firstly, clarity acts like an accelerant for trust.
Accelerant, I like that.
Yeah, when you consistently communicate with openness and honesty, and hopefully the other person does too, it builds this really solid foundation.
Right.
Reliability, security.
Trust.
Exactly. It also significantly minimizes misunderstandings and the conflicts that so often bubble up from ambiguity and things left unsaid.
Less relational drama. Sign me up.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
a universal benefit, right? And beyond just reducing conflict, clarity fosters a deep sense of emotional safety.
Okay, safety. Tell me more.
Just knowing that you can express yourself openly, honestly, without this constant fear of being judged or misunderstood, it creates a much more nurturing, secure environment within the connection.
That feels really important.
It is. Furthermore, clarity can be incredibly efficient. Think about it.
Efficient. How so?
You stop investing all that valuable emotional energy trying to decipher mixed signals or navigate unclear expectations.
Right. Especially in relationships where maybe that fundamental alignment just isn't there.
Exactly. It frees you up. You can redirect that energy towards connections that are actually more fulfilling and aligned.
So it's not just about improving the relationships we have, but also about making wiser choices about where we invest our limited emotional resources.
Precisely. And there's a personal benefit too. On an individual level, people who prioritize and practice clear communication often become more trustworthy themselves and, frankly, more appealing to others.
Why is that?
Well, people are generally drawn to authenticity, aren't they? To transparency, reliability. When someone shows up clearly, consistently, that's attractive.
It really sounds like clarity, even though it sometimes takes courage and vulnerability. It
Mm.
really is the bedrock, the foundation for healthier, more fulfilling connections in, well, all areas of our
I
lives.
truly believe it is.
Yeah.
At its heart, clarity in relationships is, I think, an act of profound kindness.
Kindness. Interesting.
Yeah, kindness towards ourselves because we stop putting ourselves through the ringer of confusion, and kindness towards others because we give them the respect of knowing where they stand.
Hmm. Kindness and respect.
And it's a source of personal empowerment, too. It lets us navigate our connections with more intention, with integrity, and ultimately that contributes to greater inner peace, doesn't it? And more relational harmony overall.
So the core message here isn't really that clarity is some magic wand that guarantees perfect problem-free relationships,
No, definitely not. Life's more complex than that.
but rather it ensures that how we engage, how we show up, is with authenticity, with confidence, and hopefully with compassion.
Well said. It's about showing up as our truest selves and creating the space for others to do the same.
Hmm.
And maybe with that in mind, I'd encourage you, listening right now, to just reflect for a moment. Think about one relationship in your life, just one, where maybe introducing a little more clarity could make a positive
What
difference.
would that look like?
Yeah, what small, maybe courageous step could you take towards a more open, more honest exchange in that relationship?
Some really valuable insights today. Thank you. And for everyone listening, we'd love for you to consider your own experiences with clarity or the lack of it and how it impacts your relationships. Feel free to share your reflections with us.
Thanks for tuning in.
And thank you for diving deep with us today.